On to who fired the first shot, killing Michael D. Jackson last year.
Shannon Walker indeed fired the shot. Shannon Walker indeed fired the shot. Shannon Walker indeed fired the shot.
On to who fired the first shot, killing Michael D. Jackson last year. 10 News reporter Tommy Lopez was in the courtroom for the emotional reaction to the security video. He joins us now live in downtown Roanoke. So, Tommy, what are the two sides arguing?
The prosecution is saying that this security camera video shows that the man accused here that actually ended up killing Jackson, the victim here. But we know that two men fired shots at Jackson. And the defense is saying that it's just not clear from the video exactly what happened. So Walker was in court today, and the prosecution says he got into an argument with the victim, and that ended up leading to both he and another man firing at Jackson, and ultimately Jackson got shot 4 times. This was at LT's store. It's in Northwest Roanoke near Washington Park. This happened last summer. So another man has been accused in this case. He's pleaded to shooting but not killing Jackson. So the debate is over really which shot was the fatal shot and how many shots Walker fired.
Okay, so sometime in the 90s, the Arizona legislature or legislation, whatever, people who make the laws, they found that they needed to amend the Arizona Constitution. It's getting any kind of law made is hard enough, but amending a constitution, and they thought that it was important enough to add victims' rights into the Constitution, and I think so too. Now, Shannon Walker and Matt Walker are making and Rachel Stiles are making a mockery out of victims' rights, out of victims, period, calling Shannon Walker a victim because she is not, right? And it's a serious thing, and they are seriously making a joke out of it and using it and making it harder for actual victims to use victims' rights to help them. Part of victims' rights is that you get to appoint somebody for you somebody gets appointed for you after you die, right? That's how serious victims' rights is, and she's using it so she can sit in and watch the prosecution of Elaine Myers, a guy who posted videos onto YouTube. Okay, think about that. Somebody gets murdered, or somebody posts a video on YouTube, right? And they're going to use the same exact legislation to be able to sit in on their trials. I mean, come on. And I'm sure there's some way to legally explain that, but common sense wise, and there's no way to explain it. It's the only way to explain it is an abuse of their everything, abuse of the legislation, abuse of the legal system, abuse of Elaine Myers. It's just abuse. They're abusing everything that they're allowed to and have power over. They're abusing. So anyways, I made something that I made it as a joke. Well, not a joke, but this internet troll guy made a video, and I was making in the process of making a video going back, send it to him or whatever. But in the process, I realized what was going on. So here is the joke video I started making, and then I'll show you what serious conclusions I came up with afterwards. This is the incompetency report by Jason Zawak, starting with the topic here in bold. It says Elaine Myers' criminal activity with respect to Shannon Walker. Okay, we'll start right there. First, the term with respect to. It's a formal way of saying concerning or in relation to, also meaning not directly, because it's in relation to. Harassment is unwanted attention or mistreatment directed at someone. I need not go any further because we just found out that everything that's included in every paragraph below this and all the exhibits and examples are things that are in relation to and not directed at. You see how these words line up? You see that? Okay. And you see how these ones don't line up, right? Okay, that's because they're different words. Okay. They mean different things. All right. Yes, whenever you start off with an incompetency report that has the title of it that contradicts everything that's in it and makes it all moot, then you've done well. But let's go through it anyway, because Going through garbage cans is fun. Evidence of incompetence report by me, Jason Zawak. This is sometime in April. It's early in the morning, and here we go. Matt was prosecuting Myers' case. Myers had engaged in the following behavior toward Matt Walker, wife Shannon Walker. Bolded exhibits were previously given to Detective Brown on a flash drive, and all other information is either posted at the listed website or in Shannon's possession. Okay, let's start there. First thing, the word behavior. Before I go look it up to make sure, I'm pretty sure behavior is an observation of somebody else. So, I know there's even bigger words in here, but we'll go through it. The way an individual organism, system, or entity acts or functions in a specific context. I know that word context is big. We'll keep going. It encompasses a wide range of actions, mannerisms, and responses to include internal and external stimuli. Behavior. It refers to the way as someone or something acts or conducts themselves. It encompasses an observable action, reaction, and responses to stimuli or situations, right? That would mean that behavior is a response to the other person's stimulating that behavior, i.e. poking the snake with a stick, okay? Funny, we're looking at a criminal report. I feel like it should be called like a behavior report or something, you know? Do they have those? Huh. And if they do have those, who would make one of these behavior reports? Oh, here we go. It's a written record of an individual's behavior over time, used to identify strengths and weaknesses and potential triggers. Why would anybody want to find potential triggers? That's weird and stalker-like. Why would you want to trigger anybody other than to trigger them to laugh or smile? That's weird. Oh, now I get it. It says it's to track students' behavior. That's weird. None of us are teachers. Oh, wait. Well, and what would be the point of pointing out incompetency if we weren't trying to help fix it? So let's read what this should say. Myers had engaged in reacting to the behaviors of Matt Walker and wife Shannon Walker to a level of criminal, according to Dr. Quinn and Medicine Woman. So, since incompetency ruled out in the very heading of this document that the rest of the entire document is not criminal behavior at all, so the only possible criminal behavior here is the people who created this document. So let's keep going. Don't poke the snake with a stick, okay? Okay, next, whoops. Bolded exhibits were previously given to Detective Brown on a flash drive, and all other information is either posted and listed on the website or in Shannon's possession. Okay, sweet. Yes, more information further explaining that Mr. Myers has nothing to do with anything criminal, possibly provable in court, because right here it just says that Detective Brown and Shannon both have copies of all of these. Now we cannot be sure for sure where, why, and who, and what made anybody go to that website and view those videos and call her, because it very well could have been her or the cop. So if Shannon and the cop both have copies of the evidence and he's in a jail cell, how is he in trouble for giving physical evidence to the public? That doesn't make any sense. Besides, Shannon and the cop, the only other two people in this case, both have that. And you know, those cops and that lady Shannon are the only ones that have anything to gain by showing the public those things. And the fact that they printed the web address for his YouTube are right there on the very top. Now, the next line. September 12th through October 10th was included in the injunction against harassment. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Let's go view that for a minute here. Yes, since that time, starting while Matt was prosecuting Myers' cases, Myers had engaged in the following behaviors that we just discussed were not actually behaviors. And that definitely was not the start of it. I guarantee that. Yes, Magoo. Okay. Myers calls Shannon's work number from his number. That's his number. and it was on a work phone line, which is completely legal, and during work hours, which is good. He leaves a voicemail asking for her assistance, which is a purpose, and helping Matt not be such a crooked prosecutor, which is a noble purpose. And then that is about it. No problem there. Yes, and this is incompetency of the most fundamental kind, right? Okay, here. Myers posts a video that displays Shannon's name, picture, public information, and contact information from her work, including her physical office number. Well, let's break that down. The level of incompetent here is just tremendous. At the very beginning, Myers posts a video that displays Shannon's name, picture, public contact information from her work. First of all, Myers did not post anything, he published a video. Secondly, if you want to technicalize who posted it, the university posted her information and contact information from her work, her name and picture. The university did that, not Mr. Myers. All Mr. Myers did was capture that in a part of his video, which he later then published. Now, whether or not that was his intent or not, we'll never know. Now, it says, including the physical office number. What other type of numbers would there be other than a physical number? And if that's the case, what isn't a physical number? Exactly. Now, I'll give you the reasoning behind this incompetency. See, they're slippery little weasels, okay? And the reason they look so incompetent is because they're slippery little weasels. See, what they're trying to do is sneak in the words contact and physical in there, because physical contact is a element of the aggravated harassment. You actually have to physically be around somebody and touch them at their personal space, you know what I mean? So they're trying to sneak those words in there, but it just makes them sound stupid, and it's obviously a weasel move. The very next sentence is another example of this, trying to subliminally sneak messages in there. See, studying your opponents kind of sounds bad, like you want to fight or something, but the theme of the video is I want to apologize, and it was a fighter who was giving an apology speech, right? They're trying to play off people's ignorance of words, because opponent does not mean enemy. Opponent means something like a sportsman-like opponent, a sportsman-like relationship between you and the other person, a healthy one.
Prosecutor. I see your wife works at U of A Law School. How ironic. That's a contact with who? So you're confusing a contact with the prosecutor with a contact with the victim. Those are two different things, Mr. Zwack. They're two different things. So he didn't harass the victim by contacting the prosecutor, even though I believe those were on the same day. He harassed the victim when he contacted the victim. Look at the harassment statute. It has to be directed at the victim. In theory, arguendo, it could be argued that he may have been attempting to harass the prosecutor by leaving that message with the prosecutor about the prosecutor's wife, but that wouldn't be harassment. It started with a phone call to the victim.
Y'all see how he's trying to push that word victim so fucking hard? Just check it out. Anyways, this guy's a state actor for sure. In Arizona, a victim is defined as a person against whom a criminal offense has been committed. Keywords: has been committed. You don't get the ED in the past tense on the end of that word commit unless you are convicted in a court of law. And against the person whom means it would have to be a conviction against Shannon for her to be called a victim. He would have to have a previous conviction for that. She's not a victim of anything right now. She's the accuser, or she is the alleged victim.
In the voicemail that he left. That's where it started. Still. And you've demonstrated nothing to suggest otherwise.
And see, this is why I love people making videos like this. Please, I'm not kidding. Everybody, make videos and talk shit to me, because this is how I learn things. I didn't know that we needed to prove otherwise, because I thought it was known fact that Shannon has been trolling his live streams, but apparently not. Yeah, so I didn't know we needed to know that. So I'm going to prove that. Just keep watching. It takes a second to get there, but you'll see.
That he made to the prosecutor. What about any phone calls he made previously to the prosecutor? And why hasn't he been charged with that particular?
If you want an actual answer to that, you can't harass a prosecutor. I mean, that's damn near impossible. They're public servants, number one, and they're supposed to be the head law enforcement officer. If you can harass a prosecutor, then your town is doomed. Besides, we're all forgetting the fact that you can incite harassment. You can incite phone calls by not answering your phone. You know what I mean? Like, if you wanted to make it look like somebody was harassing you, you could just not answer the phone. And this is part of the reason why. I'll show you right here in a perfect example of why that I think Shannon is full of shit, and she's doing this because she wants to put somebody in jail and be a victim. This is Lane calling O'Reilly's Auto Parts after his arrest. These people truly do not want to be harassed, and they don't want to have a bunch of phone calls. They honestly don't want phone calls, and this is exactly how you stop that from happening. You answer the phone and tell them not to call you.
Right back with you.
That's their music on the whole thing. So she put me on hold to talk to the lawyer. So we're sitting here on hold.
Patience is appreciated. Please hold the line. We'll be right back with you.
They appreciate my patience, but they ain't gonna appreciate this lawsuit.
You have reached O'Reilly Auto Parts. Your calls are disrupted to our business and team members due to the frequency and nature of your call. We will not assist you any further. We demand that you cease and desist from making any further calls to O'Reilly Auto Parts. If you call again, you will be directed to this voicemail box.
Thank you for calling.
I've called there twice, ever. 3 months ago and today.
Honestly, it really doesn't matter because they could have given you that message on the very first call and you would have had to cease and desist. You would have had to stop calling. And Lane knows this. Lane knows the law. He follows the law. Anyways, all Shannon had to do was do that. All Matt Walker had to do was do that. Instead, they decided to allow him to keep calling and then label it harassment. This is what these people do.
That's called lawyering up and hiding under the table like a little bitch.
My contention is that nothing ever started. But if we're going to pick a kicking off point here, we'll start with whenever Shannon started trolling his live streams back in June. Actually, let's go by what this troll said, and we'll start with when he first called Matt Walker, the very first phone call, the first two even. Not September, back in June. Once again, I don't believe anything has started because there's not anything to start. He made some phone calls. She didn't pick the phone up. It's not a big deal. Emails, again, 3 or 4 days. So what? Look how many emails I have. It's not a big enough deal to put somebody in jail for. And especially, look at all this, dude. Every single she gets on his live streams and waits until she sees or hears anything that sounds like her name. Dude, there's even one on here where she says that a random number called. It's not his number, and it didn't leave a voicemail. And that's an event. Is somebody calling and not saying anything, and it's not his number. That's an actual event on a police report. That is retarded. I think she's retarded. And this is also why I have such a problem with the way that Rachel arrested or got Mr. Myers into jail is because, listen, so let's say Matt Walker, the prosecutor, gets a call from Lane Myers, right? I'm about to show you what happened. But Lane Myers calls him and the very first call, he just doesn't answer. Second call, he doesn't answer. The third call, he answers and tells him it's harassment and uses the first two calls as proof of that harassment and brings him to jail because of it. A prosecutor should not be able to set them up, have them carry out the crime, be able to bring them to a court, and prosecute them for the crime, right? You know what I'm saying? The only thing the judge does is what, just find out the sentence. But anyways, that's essentially what's happening, and that's what Matt Walker does. And here, look. So when Lane first got arrested, here's him talking about it on June 15th about his June 6th arrest.
We're back from another exciting kangaroo hunt. This one took a little bit more. This wasn't so easy. This wasn't one of those hunting on a game ranches where they got them in a pen and then you just walk in and there's just kangaroos everywhere. Like at the last, this one took a little work. I had to track them down. Old school, get out, scout, make some calls. I dealt with a lot of problems where they didn't want to give. So basically, I went to my hearing on June 6th that we talked about when I told you the judge, right? But the prosecutor, they wouldn't give me his name. So like after the hearing, I call him like, what's the prosecutor's name? What's the prosecutor's name? I'm scouting it out. What's the prosecutor's name? They wouldn't give it to me. I spent 2 fucking days. Thursday, June 6th, Friday, June 7th. Calling these dumb motherfuckers down at Tucson City Prosecutor, asking them, what was the name of my prosecutor that was at my hearing that unlawfully arraigned me without probable cause? They wouldn't tell me, right? Because they get it. They know. Oh, he's talking us into something. What? He's using words like, oh, yeah. He's using the law against us. So those ones that are skittish? You scout those ones out and then they're real skittish because, they've been sued. I mean, so like they've been hunted and they've been hunted so much that it's hard to, so they.
He had a significant other who was a federal law clerk.
Do you, I take it you and the defendant don't have any other cases with each other?
No,
There's no
no.
other anything else. Would you have any knowledge, or has he in any way threatened or mentioned the use of a gun?
I do not have any knowledge.
All right.
Well, he talks about being a hunter in some of his videos, so I guess that would be my only kind of glimpse into that.
But there's,
so like they've been hunted and they've been hunted so much.
all right.
Well, he talks about being a hunter in some of his videos.
So like they've been hunted and they've been hunted so much.
All right.
Well, he talks about being a hunter in some of his videos, so I guess that would be my only kind of glimpse into that.
But there's been no direct
prosecutor. I see your wife works at U of A Law School. How ironic. That's a contact with who? So you're confusing a contact with the prosecutor with a contact with.
Sorry, I must have been talking too fast in that one. He's telling me that I'm confusing the contact, but his whole point is just to say the word contact, right? I'm not confusing anything, and I didn't confuse anything. And I know it was with Matthew A. Walker. Okay, I know that. I also know that the email was to Matthew Walker, yet she still stated it as if it was a phone call to her work when it wasn't. And even in the police report right here, she even says Myers emails Matt stating that he is going to visit Shannon at the law school. As we just saw, she's been on his lives since June, right? It's now September, what she's claiming is the first contact or whatever, the first communication, the first attempted communication is in September. So June, July, August, September. She's had a good 3-4 months of making this behavioral whatever model or whatever to find his triggers, right? So she probably started doing one of these behavioral exams or whatever, or it's really a scientific test to see how people react or the reflexes to complex cognitive processes are, which is whatever. But I like this part just because that's probably a coincidence, but I think it's hilarious. It says hunting right there. But she started doing this whenever he got arrested, whenever he started asking for the prosecutor's name, because people who are going to who are going to obey aren't going to ask for their prosecutor's name. They're going to pay their ticket. They're going to go to the whatever. As soon as you ask for the prosecutor's name, then you're on Shannon's radar, and she'll start following your Facebook, following your Instagram, and doing one of these and finding out what your triggers are. So whenever it comes time to court, then Matt Walker can pull the trigger on those triggers. You know what I'm saying? Right? They do this with every single one of them. Half of it is one of them, and half of it is the other one. So they get double the amount of attempted communications. Dude, look at this garbage. Shannon receives a 5-minute voicemail with no dialogue from an 858 number. This is not typical for her job. Give me a break, dude. That's Exhibit 13. And then here's a little narrative of that document. I don't even think this wasn't written by the cops. This was written by one of them. I think it was written by Shannon. But it says, as Judge Griffin found at the contested hearing on the injunction, Myers never had any legitimate reason to contact Shannon. Although Shannon works at the law school, she works at the behest of the dean, not the public-facing role. Okay, she brought that up in her injunction application that I am not, but I do not deal with the public, right? So she reiterated that. And what she said about the judge's finding right here, the judge can't find that you have no legitimate reason. Your reason is your reason. He can find that no harassment took place because that's all he's there to do, is to decide if what those acts were constituted a charge of harassment or whatever, the award of an injunction. But it's either your acts are harassing or they're not. Your reason is your reason for doing it. He can't decide that that's not no reason. Okay, now look at your reason doesn't exist. Myers contacted, was an ED, and then said, and has repeated. So she's jumping from past tense to something currently happening, right? And that Matt out to intimidate Matt out of processing Tucson city court cases. See, that's what works with, that's what other people believe, because that's what other people would think that somebody would be contacting and then trying to intimidate somebody for. But Mr. Myers, we all know he wants to go to court. He doesn't want to intimidate him out of it. He just wants him to follow the rules in court. You know what I mean? So it's a joke to us, but that's what people eat up. That's what their game normally is on other people. Okay, so that's the end of the little video, but so that's when it hit me. And some of you too, some of you out there that's been following this, you probably think that everything started on the September, with the phone call. It didn't. She has been watching his live streams since he was, for what I know, since he got arrested, since that June 6th, right? Since Matt became the prosecutor. And I think this is what they do to people. I think this right here, what's scrolling up and down, is a behavior report. And I think what she does, because she's a psychology and sociology major. Now, she got majors. She listen to this. Her degrees are in living life and having friends. But think about that. This is why most people with those degrees are crazy, is because they spend their whole college studying people instead of actually living life and having friends. It is right. So they get a degree in it, which keeps them from actually living life and having friends in college. So by the time they're 40, and plus she got married out of college too, right out of college or during college, I'm assuming, but they got married really young. They've been married for 20 years. You know what I mean? So that not being able to have a college life and friends, right? And then immediately getting married and coming to work at the college, you know what I mean? Dude, it's just a recipe for psycho, dude. And also, too, you got to think, too, Matt's been there 20 years also. He's been there 20 years in the courts, and then she's been there 20 years in the college, right? They've had a lot of time to do this, and they've done it to people before. Here, what you're seeing right here is me scroll through every single possible combination of names that I could think of for all the judges and everybody, right? And I found that they've here. They indeed have improperly worked together to railroad somebody or whatever. In this case, Damon Smith was a ward of the state. In 1993, he was considered a ward, and not a ward, but a WARD of the state, And then 19 years later, he's getting sued by Matt Walker and Shannon Walker. That's odd, right? So they have worked together before legally in a legal capacity, so they know what they're doing. And again, like I said, he's using her as a spy. Check this out. We haven't been able to see any of Lane Myers' recent courts, right? Or court appearances. Well, Matt Walker has. Shannon has. How was she able to do that? Because she's the victim. Look, she's in the minute entries as a victim in all of them. So everything that we're not getting to see, Matt Walker and Shannon Walker are seeing. Here's the minute entries. Look, Jeffrey Lane Myers got both of his case numbers consolidated right here in the top right. And then here's Shannon right here watching everything going down. And part of victims' rights is she gets to have a support person come with her, a.k.a. Matt Walker. I'm sure he's there too, but we can't tell. It's not in the minute entry, but we know he's spying on her because of that. A lot of you too kind of think like I did, and I even heard Lane say it at one of the meetings with Judge Metcalf. He said, well, what if your computer spits out a date and, it's on somebody, blah, blah, blah. Everybody thinks that that your case assignment, when it says assigned to judge, that the computer assigns you a judge or that it's random. It is absolutely not. whatever judge it comes in front of orders that the other judge be the one to preside over it. For example, his original judge was Tracy Miller, right? Whenever the video first stopped, right? When it was just an audio recording and it was his arraignment and whatever date it was. Okay, Tracy Miller. Now, check it out. Okay, see here how Judge Tracy Miller, she's the judge, and she orders, these are her orders, right? So this one, she ordered that the bond remain set at that amount with notice of supervising whatever, right? Those are her orders. Well, now look at the top one. For this case, 2 division, blah, 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 Howard Fell, right? So now the judge is Howard Fell because of a judge's orders. Okay, so you have to find Howard Fell's minute entry. Okay, then he kicks it to Scott McDonald. All right, so find his. Okay, found it. All right, cool. Oh, look, the victim's lurking again. Did anybody following this case know that his judge's name is Scott McDonald? No, right. We all think it's that Judge Metcalf guy. It's because they're bouncing it around. Like, there's 3 different judges, Howard Fell, Scott McDonald, and Judge Metcalf, right? But their minute entries, anyways, this is how they confuse people. Some people can't get a hold of him because they think he's in a different division. Other people can't find him, but can't find him because his case number is never attached to his name, and the only time his name and case number is attached is whenever there's one of these with the victim, right? And then that way, on the other ones, you can't find the victim. You can't find him by name, and you can't find him just by case number. And then the only ones that have all the case number, his name, and the victim on there are ones that aren't his judge. I don't know if you can follow that, but. On Friday, March 28, 2025, the state stated that the defendant was indicted on direct indictment and requested a summons with booking. This was not appropriate. The defendant wasn't being held without bond. The state asked for the notice of a supervening indictment to be returnable on April 4th, 2025. See? Even they think it's not appropriate. The jail thinks what she's doing is not appropriate. Here's yet another judge where the victim was present for whatever court hearing this was. This may not be proof enough for some people, but it is for me. Like, this judge, Metcalf, was not assigned to this case. He was appointed by Judge Scott McDonald. March 7th, when he first went in there for his summons, he was appointed to be his judge by this guy, Scott McDonald. And then since then, like I just showed you all those other documents, the last 4, they kicked them around to different judges to hide, because if not, everything that happened would all be on Judge Metcalf's minute entry, and it would all be under him. And then they would be able to see the maliciousness of how they're charging them, what they're charging them with. And now, if they, again, they had to do it the way they did it and have those cops waiting. Like, because remember, he tried to consolidate these in the beginning. He said, the cops are out there waiting for me. And Judge Metcalf is like, well, there's nothing in front of me, nothing I can do, because he can't, but that's the way they want it to be. Because if he could do something, then it would all the list of everything that happened to him and all his charges would be all listed on one list chronologically, and it would be obvious to anybody reading it that there was malicious prosecution happening. But the way they keep kicking it to somebody else, like, for example, Judge Metcalf orders that Judge Me preside over it, and then they can set him a crazy ass bond, right? And then it's only in my minute entry. It's the only way you can find it. So it's not now. The next day, whenever Judge Metcalf comes back and has the next hearing, that's not on his docket thingy, right? But it's still a process that's happening to him. It's still a part of a prosecution that's happening to him. It's just not listed under Metcalf. You see, and this proves it right here, because look, there it says the victim is present. Nowhere on this minute entry, there's nothing that says anything about the victim. And this is the most recent one, April 21st. They're trying to keep all their bullshit off this official, whatever document. Now, remember, Deborah Moore is when in the Griffin, the contesting against the injunction for harassment hearing with Judge Griffin, Lane standed up and said, "Who's Deborah Moore? Who's Deborah Moore? This isn't on the petition. This isn't on the petition. Show me Deborah Moore on the petition." Okay, well, Deborah Moore is a court reporter. I think I did this in my last video, but she's a court reporter for that court, right? And if you look here, she's, at this day, Tracy Miller, the judge who is related to the dean of the college. She's that person's court reporter. Now, she was also mentioned in the behavior report or whatever. And I just thought this was particularly odd because there's 4 different phone calls / emails mentioned in this paragraph, but she's the only one mentioned by name and has the phone number. So it's like they, you know what I mean? So anyways, it was just weird. So I did more looking on her. So I got on her Facebook, found out it was her, and found out that her Facebook, she has a high school reunion from her high school, and then I found this person on her high school reunion page. Really like a very popular name, you know what I'm saying? Like my name's one of a kind, you know, but I mean that, I'm not saying that really means anything that they're related or whatever, but my thing is Metcalf has a separate reason to have Lane in jail. Now, Matt Walker's reason is obvious because he wants to get the rule changed, and this is obvious, right? But Metcalf, he also has a hand in this because he wants a rule change as well. He's got a petition to change the rule for the special action in a way that would hurt Mr. Myers if Mr. Myers were to call for special action at this point in the trial. So both of them have a really, really serious, honestly, deep reason to have Mr. Myers in jail. This is a conflict of interest. Somebody needs to do something. I'm running out of time. These people aren't around for public safety. They're around to push their ambitions or whatever. And just so happens both of these people have something that they need Mr. Myers in jail for.
This is Moscow. This is Moscow calling. On the 12th of April, the Soviet Union orbited a spaceship around the Earth with a man on board. The astronaut is a Soviet citizen, Major Gagarin Yuri Alexeyevich.
So it's been my contention this whole time Matt Walker has been in the background helping her, not just because he's literally been in the background physically that we've actually seen on video multiple different times, but also here on paper they use this civil. It looks like they're suing a dude named Damon Smith, but they've used a civil litigation to tag team people before. Look, Matthew and Shannon Walker, blah blah blah, and so her name isn't really even Shannon Walker. She got her name changed in 2007 from here. I'll just show you. And of course, I'm sure that Judge Kuhn was just randomly picked, right? I bet it was just random.